you see stuff that's boarded up, when you see windows boarded up, when you see something that you could tell a property is totally mismanaged, it's not on the market yet. They're clearly desperate, or else they would be fixing the house and renting it out or something. So that's where you sort of spot opportunities or the diamonds in the rough. Nobody wants to deal with that.
Welcome to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. Whether you are an active or passive investor, we'll teach you how to scale your real estate investing business into something big.
Melanie Badrovic is a serial entrepreneur, a real estate investor, a two-time international best-selling author, a speaker, and an educator. She became a millionaire by the age of 27. Melanie, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. The pleasure is mine, Melanie. There are 3 questions I ask every guest who comes on the show. In 90 seconds or less, can you tell me, where did you start? Where are you now? And how did you get there?
Oh boy, 90 seconds. Okay, well, I started working when I was 12 years old for my parents. They owned a bar restaurant, kitchen and bussing, waitressing, bartending, and then managing for about 15 years, all along, saving my money. My mother saved my money too. We'll get to that, how I got into my first property from there. And then I scaled up into commercial real estate, big, huge, best decision I ever made. Super great for returns and equity and appreciation. So I love that. And then I got into Airbnb. I kind of stumbled into Airbnb, but it has been the craziest, cash flow property that I have. And okay, so I started basically from zero. I was a barmaid for most of my life. Again, starting at 12, I didn't leave that industry until I was 27 years old. So that from nothing basically to, now having about just under $7 million net worth, going from minimum wage to that huge jump.
So I love that. It's 27. So you worked, as you said, a barmaid until you were 27. How did you become a millionaire by the age of 27 working at a bar?
Yeah. It's an interesting story, but so I worked obviously from such a young age. I have immigrant parents from the former Yugoslavia. It's just like a normal thing. Kids go to work,
Sure.
got to help the family. And I didn't start getting paid though until I was about 16. So then my mother started paying for me, and she kept all of my wages on the side. And I kept a portion of my tips as well on the side. And I would just live off of what I had. I went to work. I worked all through undergrad, my MBA, even at that point it was high school and primary school. But anyway, I was able to save enough money that by the time I was 27 years old, that's when I bought my first property.
Okay.
So that was where that all started, and why I was able to start building my wealth at such a young age. And I basically did the same thing, worked, saved the money, saved my tips, saved as much as I could, bought a second one. And then I did that again. And then I refinanced a property once I learned, becoming a little more savvy of an investor. At the beginning, right. I had no clue. And then I started refinancing properties to buy more properties. And so, that is basically what got me to at least all of my long-term buy and holds. My favorite strategy is single family, long-term buy and holds. It's like a retirement plan for me. I've been self-employed since I've done everything on my own in terms of mini businesses and companies and whatnot. So that's where the entrepreneurship comes in, but I'm not going to be relying on the government for a pension or any company, obviously, because I don't work for a company for any type of pension. So that's where those come in, and that's why I love them. Everything will be paid off by then, when I need it, and that'll be my cash flow when I retire. And basically, my commercial properties came next. I was 27 years old, worked in Toronto and back home in Niagara at my parents' place. So I was double whammying, weekends in Toronto, made a ton more money. And then weeknights I would go back home, and I saved up all this money. I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I knew I didn't want to keep doing this. I really knew I didn't want to keep being a bartender or waitress or anything in that industry. And so I went to Serbia, my mother's home country, and I spent about 4 months there, just sort of like deliberating. What do I do next? What should I do? What do you want to do? And the only thing I could come up with was that I'm really good at, that I know all the ins and outs, that I've done for so long, is to run a restaurant bar. So when I actually in Serbia. I already started the search, and it had to be tied to a property, which goes along with my mantra. Always, no matter what, I have to keep buying more and keep adding to the portfolio, keep adding to the little, mini empire, I call it. So I found a property. My uncle is my mother's side is kind of been a great advisor to me. He's crazy good in for anything financing. So him and I looked at this property. We liked it. The husband and wife were having a hard time. Their sales were super duper duper low. The beer store wasn't even allowing them anymore to buy beer on their license. It was just like I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but a show. I didn't say. So luckily I was able to get in at a really good price, and it I had to use all my other properties as collateral and some down payment, and that was fine with me. I wasn't scared, worried, or nervous at all. So from that is how I basically got into the commercial, and then I built my own business, restaurant, bar in that commercial space. So I was the president of the holding company. I was also the president or the tenant of the business. Right. So that's how I got into commercial real estate.
I love that. That's a great strategy, because if you ever want to sell the business, you can, and then you can remain a landlord.
I have, by the way. And it was incredible timing. 2020, COVID was hitting next month, and I sold it. Not the business. Not the property, of course. Right. But I did. I sold the business right before COVID. Like, I must have a horseshoe at my butt. I don't know. But he's still doing great, and he's an incredible guy, and I love working with him. He's like the only one I would have picked to run this bar, because you really need to know what you're doing, right? Like 98% of bars or something fails. Right. And it's so true. So he has a long history of that, a long history of success in the bar industry. So I was like, you're the best person, and I'm only selling it to you. So I did sell it and keep the property.
So you have a restaurant and bar, you've got single family rentals, you've got Airbnbs, you've got some commercial property. Is there a cohesive strategy that you formed around this, or has it always been just kind of acquire what makes sense?
Yeah, it's just been what do I have at the time in terms of savings, and how much money can I get my hands on? But to be honest, the Airbnb was really kind of a fluke. I just said, a couple summers ago, I'm like, I want a beach house. Like, I just want a lake house. Right. And so it's only about 45 minutes from where I live here in Niagara Falls, and it's on Lake Erie, directly on the beach. It's a beautiful home. And so I was able to get in on that with a VTB. Is that an American term for you guys? No. Okay. So I think it's called seller financing.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So I had a down payment, and then I convinced them to do seller financing at 4%, which was freaking awesome at the time. And after a year, then I was able to get into a conventional mortgage. And we lived there for just like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months or something. And I'm like, let's just try. I don't even know what the exact point was of why I thought, let's try Airbnb, or let's call it short-term rental. Either way, I'm like, let's test this out. So I tested it out, and it was just through the roof. Like, and I'm still to this day, it's $1,000 a night. This is it's producing over $150,000 in sales. And I had no clue that's not why I even bought it. Right. I was just like, I just feel like I want to have a lake house. I want to have a second home. I want to, like, who doesn't want to be by the water? It's so tranquil and everything. So, but that just blew me away. That really shocked me, surprised me. I had no idea so that one was a fluke.
Yeah. But still, even so, I think seizing the opportunity, or being willing to seize the opportunity, is a unique skill set. Again, it sounds like to me that you're, and I don't want to say this, but it's more just, hey, I see an opportunity here. We're going to take advantage of that. Is there any advice you would give to somebody? Maybe they're just getting started, or maybe they don't see the opportunities out there. Is there a way that people can identify those, or advice you would give to somebody that's just getting started?
There's certain things you can do that I have done in the past. So I do a lot of driving around. That's like part of one of the things that I do. I drive around, I look for what's for sale, what's up for sale. But also, when you see things like grass that hasn't been cut or mowed in 2, 3, 4, 5 months. When you see stuff that's boarded up, when you see windows boarded up, when you see something that you could tell a property is totally mismanaged, it's not on the market yet. They're clearly desperate, or else they would be fixing the house and renting it out or something. So that's where you sort of spot opportunities or the diamonds in the rough. Nobody wants to deal with that. Investors do. I have a joke or a quote I think I put on social media, something like, you're a real estate investor when you need a new roof and new shingles, new floors, new this, new da. Like that's when you're a real estate investor. And the numbers, of course, always have to make sense in terms of how much you would purchase it for, what all your costs are, and how much rent you can get for it. So you got to consider all those factors. But that is one thing that I can concretely say, like look for the opportunity. Where there's a problem, there's an opportunity right there. For example, the commercial property, they're divorcing, they're blah, blah, blah. The business is going under, like they're just sinking, right? Boom, opportunity. So that's how I look at things and how I spot opportunities when there's a problem.
Absolutely.
And we're the ones who want to fix the problem, meaning a normal Joe Blow, he doesn't want to deal with that, right? But us as investors are like, bingo,
right?
Yeah,
that's where your money's made. And we used to buy it at the foreclosure auctions exclusively, and I got to the point where we could just spot a foreclosure a mile away. It's like, that's a foreclosure, right? There's a foreclosure. Okay, the trash cans are out on Friday. Trash comes on Monday. The leaves are piling over the gutters, and nobody's been there.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, you can spot those pretty quickly. Are you still acquiring single family? Are you buying more commercial assets, or are you just buying it all?
All of it.
What do you like in the commercial space right now?
It's great cash flow. It really is great cash flow. The reason that I love it. For example, I have one that has 4 units upstairs and then a bar on the main floor. Great rents. I have this other commercial property that was my first one. I told you that I created my restaurant bar from, that I ran for 9 years. That one doesn't have anything upstairs. So I'm really looking more towards multi-purpose, multi-use commercial properties, because if, let's say, the one that I owned first had units upstairs, that would increase my cash flow by a minimum of 40% annually. So I love commercial. It appreciates like crazy if you're in a good area, of course. And in Canada, in these areas I'm discussing, our equity, like it just appreciates much quicker than single family homes and things like that. So I want it all. Now that I see what Airbnb or these short-term rentals can do on the water, like, okay, it was a good idea to buy a house on the water versus, let's say, across the street where you're not on the water. Huge potential. And I still really want to buy long-term buy and holds. I love it. I'm a great landlord. I know I can speak about myself. I should have my tenants tell you this themselves, but I get them gifts for holidays and, Christmas and Thanksgiving and whatever. And we have a very good relationship, and they don't bother me for many things. But if something goes wrong, no matter what, and here's another great piece of advice for everybody, is that you cannot treat your rentals like a hobby. If you treat them like a hobby, they're going to pay you like a hobby, and 100 other things are going to go wrong. Like, this is your business. And all the time, I'm just hearing stories about people saying, oh yeah, I've had a leak, blah, blah, blah. My landlord hasn't got back to me in 2 months, or there's like any other problems. I'm like, what? I can't even, if anything goes wrong in any of my properties, somebody's there within 30 minutes fixing the problem, or at least assessing the problem to get the part that they need for whatever's going on. And with the Airbnb, it's very also time, what do we call it? It takes time, and it takes a lot of effort, more so than a long-term buy and hold. You could not talk to them for a year, sometimes for a long term. Whereas an Airbnb, every time I have new guests, I have to answer all their questions. I got to get back to them right away. You want to be a super host, you want to, somebody needed, they're like, oh, there's no more battery. The batteries are out in the TV remote. And I'm like, oh, here I go. Let's get up and go get batteries, bring them over. Or there wasn't enough toilet paper one time. And it's like, you got to go immediately. And, and you have to have like a contractor in place, your person for repairs and maintenance that's just ready to to be there for you and pay them good enough money, and they'll always come. They'll always get your stuff done as soon as possible. So I would invest in all. To answer your question, I want more of all categories to diversify.
Is there any asset class or strategy right now in which you say, hey, that's a lot of risk and it's not something I'm willing to touch?
We all fear what we don't know. So because I don't know all the ins and outs of, like you said, industrial property or properties. I just went to look at one the other day, and it's on 53 hectares, and it has all the, like just land, land, land. Okay, there's a building on it. There's a little motel over here too. Like, I would be nervous to do that, not knowing that industry very well. However, the other flip side is like, oh my God, do you know how many condos could be built on this property? And you know what I mean? Because I've gone through tons of that with my uncle, and going to these council meetings and getting all your approvals and doing all this stuff. So I know it's doable. So no, I'm not really scared or averse to it. The only thing, like, let's say if I lived in America, or if I was going to invest in America, I'd be careful about some of your cities over there don't appreciate like at all, or super duper duper slow. I wouldn't necessarily be interested in that. I could say, like, knowing the market.
Right. No, that makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. Now, you're not just a real estate investor, you've been a longtime business owner. Is there a
Yeah.
part of your portfolio currently that is still invested in business, or is it all in more passive commercial real estate?
So no, I've got the rentals, the Airbnb, and the commercial real estate. That's all in like holding companies, and I get my dividends from them. But I also have like four other companies that I'm running. So I can't be bored. I can't sit around and do nothing. I'm an overachiever. So I started a construction business last year, which is doing phenomenally well. Thank God. I have an education company in which I sell, books and courses, and um, I'm really proud about my second book and course, The Most Awesome Money Book Ever, because it's a teaching children and youth financial literacy, which is a huge topic I would love to discuss, but we won't get into that right now for the purposes of your show. But helping a lot of people actually make real money in real estate, because all they really need is like a little hand holding, a little help, a little, what I mean? As I said, you fear what you don't know. So people are like, I really want to buy real estate, but I have no clue how to do this, and it could fail. Or I have people like, even close cousins, close family friends, that they used to have a property and they had one bad thing happen, and then it's like they sold it, forget it, never getting into that again. It's like, look, you know how many situations I've had and problems I had? You persevere, you keep going. People just get turned off too quickly. So that's where the education company really comes in, and I can actually help people. Like, don't be scared. Here's the nudge. Like, here's all the facts. Here it is. In real estate, it's the safest investment there is on the planet, next to gold. So, like, it's a no-brainer, and they're not making it anymore, right? So there's that. And then I have a show called, I produced, created, and everything. It's called The Champagne Showgirls. I'll give you some footage or something somewhere for people to see, but it's such a fun project I've been working on. Like, it's a very Las Vegas style, glitz, glam type of show with some burlesque, cabaret, and then also like aerial arts. And it's a super like mystical journey, but there's also some high energy dance routines. It's all glitter, it's all sparkle, it's super, super sexy. So I'm just working on right now closing a deal so that we can actually have a residency versus we've been touring. So that's been a super duper fun business. And other than that, yeah. So those are my like three companies, and the fourth company I would say is the holding company that I handle all my own real estate. And I don't have a property manager. I do this all myself.
Wow, that was my next question. Was how do you balance? I mean, there's only so many hours in a day. How do you balance wearing all of these different hats and scale the way you have? I mean, just tell me how you get it done.
That's a great question. Every day is the same for me. So I'm not someone who's like, oh, I only work Monday to Friday and I take weekends off, or I shut my phone off at a certain time. Like, no, to me, I'm a capitalist. My family came here with the intention of owning business and real estate and succeeding in this country, versus over there where you can't. It was communism at the time. But So maybe I, I, it's the will. I think it's the will. I've always wanted to make sure that no matter what, I was going to be in a position that nobody could ever tell me what to do, what I can do, what I can't do. I want to be able to do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whomever I want, how much I want. So that really took me through, let's say, all those years of working the bar and not partying when all your friends are partying on every occasion, New Year's Eve, even Christmas Day, yeah, St. Patrick's Day, blah, 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 all the events. And so it was that will to keep going. And now I am financially free now. It's more, you still need cash flow. The way I do things, I'm not a huge money, let's raise money. I don't have any partners in anything that I do. This is 100% all me. So I need the cash flow from the businesses, and that's how I buy more real estate. And it keeps me occupied. It keeps me busy, especially the show is super fun and the girls are awesome. And it's just like, I get to choose what I want to do nowadays. And construction company also, it ties into everything that I'm doing, and it helps with maintaining and all my properties when I need it. So I don't know. I work 7 days a week, but I don't work like, I don't think I'm a workaholic.
That's awesome, Melanie. You've given us so many insights here. I love the story. I love how you've started from nothing really and built your own personal little empire here. That's really cool. I love the ability to see opportunity and seize on it. The diversification, not just in real estate assets, but also across businesses as well, and really just following what you're passionate about. I think that's what I've gotten mostly from you here today is like, hey, this is what I love. You said there that you work 7 days a week, which, good on you. It doesn't sound like you get tired of working 7 days a week. So it sounds like that really is inspiring for you to keep up that pace. So that's awesome. If our listeners want to get in touch with you, Melanie, or learn more about you, what is the best way to do that?
Oh, well, they can find me on my website, thewealthybarmaid.com. They can also do melaniebadrovic.com, but I always say, good luck spelling that. So go to thewealthybarmaid.com. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. My handle is The Wealthy Barmaid. And yeah, there's some cool free stuff that your audience can get from my website. There's a few cool downloads about building wealth and principles of kind of living financially free. So please feel free and catch me there or say hey and drop a note.
Awesome. Melanie, thank you again for coming on today. I do appreciate it.
Thank you so much again for having me.